You want to set up your own WordPress website, but perhaps not quite sure where to begin. Well, in this episode, we're going to have a look at setting up a WordPress installation on a couple of different hosting options. So stick around and let's get going. So we've got a number of different hosting options for WordPress. Now you could either go for dedicated WordPress hosting. There's many of them out there. Sort of your normal website hosting providers will usually offer specific packages for WordPress. So there's one option. One of the other options is if you've just got standard shared hosting, then you can still set up your WordPress website and still get up and running. And I'm going to show you both ways of doing it. And of course, your other option as well, if you're feeling really brave and really nerdy and geeky, you could set up your own local development environment on your home network, for instance, and you can get an instance of WordPress running there as well. But in this video, we're just going to talk about the dedicated specific WordPress hosting and, of course, hosting it on just a standard shared hosting service. So let's go. All right, so first things first, you want to get yourself logged in to your web hosting control panel. It might look something like this. It might look completely different, but somewhere in that control panel, you should see some options for WordPress management. I can see here on the left-hand side, we've got our WordPress management. We've got two options on here, but you should see something similar. And again, it's kind of to make things a little bit easier to get the hosting all set up. So let's go and have a look at this. So yeah, somewhere in your control panel, you should see something relating to setting up WordPress or WordPress management. So on my particular hosting, this is sort of hosting service that I offer my clients. It uses the WP toolkit in order to sort of manage the installation of WordPress and to also let you administer it afterwards once it's all set up and running. So as you can see, we've got a blank canvas there. We've got nothing installed, and the site is completely empty. So let's go ahead and select install WordPress. Again, this might look different depending on what hosting provider you're using, but it's going to be something similar, something along those lines anyway. So yeah, if you hit install WordPress, and now it's going to need some very basic information. So we've got here the domain name that should already be set up for you. I've just set up some demonstration hosting there just for this video here, so we can install it on the root of the website, which is probably what you're going to want to do. If you're setting this up on sort of live hosting and you want to set it up in a separate folder, of course you can choose then a separate folder for the installation, and at least that way it's not going to interfere with perhaps your live website. Although if you're just doing this to sort of test and see what WordPress is all about, you would probably want something completely separate from your website in case something does go horribly wrong. But we're going to leave that as it is for now. Website title, let's change that to my WordPress website. So spell, there we go, my WordPress website. There we go. Themes, we'll leave that as none. We'll change the website language to United Kingdom, since that's where I am. Current version, yes, we'll stick with that. And then we've got the WordPress administrator. It's up to you. You could use those credentials and store them somewhere safe in a password manager perhaps, or you can certainly set your own. So what I'm going to do for this demonstration is set my own. I'm going to call it user 1. And I'm going to pick exclamation mark. There we are. Look at that, nice and secure. Email. I haven't set any email services up on this subdomain yet, so that's not going to work. That's not going to matter for this video. You can put your own email address in there, of course. So that's fine. Database, I would personally, if you're running it, if you're running this installation, I would leave this as is. You shouldn't really need to touch it unless, of course, you've got any issues later on down the line. But of course, you're still going to be able to log in and access the database if you need to. But I tend to just leave these as they are. And then your automatic update settings. Again, that's personal preference, really. I personally, where is it? The WordPress updates. Sometimes I let them do them automatically. You might prefer not to. You might want to do them manually yourself. Again, that's entirely up to you. We'll leave that as it is. The plugins definitely, you want to update them individually. So if you've got a website, a WordPress site with tons of plugins, and I don't know, 5 or 6 of them need updating, the last thing you want is for perhaps one of those updates to contain bugs. It updates automatically, brings your site down. So personally, I would install them individually as and when. At least that way you can either choose to wait a little while till the update's been out for a bit, and it's stable and there's no issues. So, but again, entirely up to you. But I'm going to leave all those update settings as they are, and then click install. And there we go. So it's doing the install process now. It shouldn't take very long, but yeah, you can see all that happening in the background. That's all been taken care of for you. So let's wait for that to finish, and then we'll just test to make sure that everything's up and running as it should be. So there we are. That's all done and dusted. Nice and easy. Took care of everything for us. Took a couple of minutes, but again, not too bad at all. Okay, so it's now asking us if we want to install some plugins. I'm going to say no at this point. We're not going to look at plugins in this video, but as we can see, because we're using the sort of dedicated WordPress hosting, we basically presented with this dashboard. You'll hopefully be presented with something very similar, and it allows you to do it's got a lot of options there without actually logging into the back end of the WordPress website. So you can do certain administrative tasks here, which is quite neat. So there we go. That's all set up. Now what we're going to do here, let's just open up another tab. Let's go to demo 2. Let's just make sure that's all up and running. And there we go. Our WordPress is all up and running. Doesn't look very exciting at the moment, but we'll cover themes in another video. So stick around for that. Right, so there we go. That's all set up nice and easy. And of course, if you want to from here as well, you can hit the login option, and that's going to now log us in to the back end of the website. There we go. We've got a little security feature there, a little capture image. So let's go ahead and verify that we are not a robot. Okay, and then let's go ahead and what will we user 1? Let's log in. And there we go. This is the back end of our WordPress website. I know it doesn't look very exciting at the moment. We obviously haven't set anything up there. But yeah, there we go. At least we've just confirmed that the installation's been successful. And of course, we can see our live website like so. So there we go. We've seen how we can set up a WordPress website using some hosting that's specifically designed for WordPress. But what if we don't have that? If we've just got standard shared hosting, how would we go about setting up a WordPress installation there? Well, there's a couple of things we need first. First of course, you need some shared hosting. Second of all, you need some sort of file access to your website. So it could be through the control panel of the hosting company. They might have some sort of file manager functionality there, or of course you could just use FTP. So what we're going to use in this video, we're going to use an FTP connection just to upload the files to our website. So let's get going. So first thing we want to do is we want to download the WordPress content management system. So to do that, let's do a quick Google search for WordPress. And as you'll probably see, we've got WordPress.com and WordPress.org. Now, they are two completely separate entities, if you like. So WordPress.com is where you can go to have your WordPress site hosted. Again, similar or the same as many other website hosting providers out there. So it's up to you. You can obviously go with WordPress, or if you've got your own preferred hosting provider, then of course you can use theirs as well. So what we're looking for here is on the second one down there is WordPress.org. So if we go there, this is where we can download the actual content management system itself. So let's go get WordPress, and then here we are. Download it, download and install it yourself. So let's go for that one. So download WordPress 6.9. There we go. Right, so save it somewhere accessible on your computer. I'm gonna stick mine in there on a D drive, and there we go. So we'll let that download. There we go. So once that's all downloaded, you want to open up the location of where you save that downloaded zip file to. In my case, it was here, and all I'm going to simply do is right click and extract all, like so. We'll let that extract, and again, that's just going to dump it in the same location there, as you can see. So we'll just wait for that. Brilliant. So that's all done. So what you want to do now is open up your favorite FTP clients. I'm using FileZilla, and all you want to simply do is go and locate where you extracted those files to. So here we go, WordPress 6.9. And so on the left here is our local device, or our local computer. On the right here, this is going to be our website. So of course, if you don't know how to set up the FTP connection, what you want to do is get all the various information, logon information from your hosting provider, and as you can see, just pop them in there, username, password, and off you go. So once you've made that connection, you might see something like this. You might look something slightly different, but what you want to do is look for something along the lines of public HTML or www. Basically, everything we put into this folder here, this public_HTML, is what's going to be our website. So even if you weren't using WordPress, if you were designing your own website from scratch, then you would upload all the files into this location, and that's what's going to make it live on the web server and obviously live to the rest of the world. So what we want to do very simply is open up on our local computer here, open up the folder, open up WordPress, and there we go. That's everything we need. So Control A to select everything and literally just drag it across, and that then is going to start uploading all of that content there to our web server. So it could take a little while. There's quite a few files to upload. So there we go. We'll jump straight back into it once that's finished uploading. So there we are. That's now uploaded. So there we only took a couple of minutes, so not too bad. So now what we want to do is head on over to our web browser, and we want to open up, or we want to browse to our website. So in my case, it was demo 3. So let's head on over there, and there we go. We're then presented with this. So let's get going. Obviously, there's a couple of things we need to set up first: database name, username, password, database host. So here, let's go. There we are. Okay, so we need to start filling in all of this sort of stuff. So what we need to make sure is that we've got a database set up and that we have full access to. So what we want to do is jump over back into our web hosting control panel under tools. Again, yours might look slightly different to this. I mean, if it's if you're using cPanel, then hopefully it'll look the same. If not, you should be able to find something relating to databases and manage database or add a database. So we're going to head into manage, and what we're going to do is create ourselves a database, and I'm simply going to call this WP for WordPress. You can call it whatever you like, as long as you remember what you called it. So I'm going to go ahead and create that database. There we are, nice and easy. So let's head back. Right. There we are. That's all successfully created. Of course, at the moment, it's completely empty. Also, there is no user assigned to it. So we're not going to get very far there. So what we need to do is add a user. And I'm going to simply call this user 1. Okay, I'm going to give it my nice secure password, which it thinks it's very strong. So, and create user. All done. There we are. Okay, let's head back. And of course, what we need to do here is then assign that user to that database, because of course you might have multiple databases for any various things. So if you have, you're going to want to assign perhaps different users to different databases. So what we're going to do here is, it's already selected it for us, select our one and only user there and our one and only database there, and then click add. And then at this point, it's going to want to know what privileges do we want to assign to our user 1. So we're going to select all privileges because we want WordPress to have obviously full, complete and full access to the database. So let's go ahead and make changes. They're all successful. Fantastic. Let's go back and then just confirm that everything is in fact all set up. Now, again, if you're not using cPanel and it's your web hosting provider's control panel, again, this might look completely different. The process of creating a database would hopefully be similar, but maybe assigning users to it might be done automatically for you. I don't know, but if not, and you've got to go through those steps, then hopefully they'll be similar for you as well. So now that we've got all that set up, let's head back over to our configuration page and we'll specify our database name, which was, beg your pardon, hang on, let's just jump back. There's our database name. So let's take a copy of that. Let's chuck it in there. Username was user1. Password. That database host, local host, I would probably leave that same unless your hosting provider tells you otherwise. Unless the database side of things is hosted on a completely different server, then you would normally put in maybe that server's address or its IP address perhaps. But if everything's kind of located on the same server, then usually leaving that as local host should be fine. And then table prefix, I would leave that as it is. If you were hosting multiple WordPress websites on the same server, on the same database even, then you would want to change the table prefix. So obviously they're not all the same. So multiple instances of WordPress could use the same database. That doesn't matter in our case, so we're just going to leave that as WP underscore. So let's hit submit, and we have an error. Let's try again. Let me just double check. Okay. There we are. The wrong username. So that's the username we want to use there. So let's copy that one. Go over here. Pop that in there. That's what I said. So let's try that again. There we go. So it's always good to put the right username in, otherwise it's not going to work. So there we go. Let's go ahead and run the installation. And it's going to want a little bit more information. So it's going to want your site title to start with. So let's just call this My Website. Nice and easy. Now we need a username. Now this is nothing to do with the database as such. This is to access the back end of WordPress. So in this case, I'm just going to simply use user1. Password, I'm not going to remember that. So I'm just going to chuck something else in there. Super secure password, which is weak. It knows it's a weak password. So we're going to have to tell WordPress that, yes, we know it's a weak password, but we're going to use it anyway. So that's fine. You can pop your email in there as well if you wish. And since we're setting this up to just a test and have a mess about with, I'm going to discourage search engines from indexing this site. Now, of course, if this was a live site that was going to go into production, you might choose to leave that unticked, or if you're going to spend a bit of time developing it, you might want to discourage the search engines, because the last thing you want, I suppose, is Google to start indexing your site before it's actually ready. So it's not a guarantee that that Google won't start showing it in the Google search results, but I think that's why they use the term discourage. So we don't really want them indexing just yet. So we'll tick that. Let's go ahead and install WordPress. There we are. It's all set up. So let's go ahead, hit the login there just to confirm it's all working. User1. Password. And there we go. Again, a nice clean install of WordPress. Nothing exciting happening just yet. We'll cover that in a separate video. But yeah, there we go. We can clearly see that it's all up and running. Let's click up here. Let's visit the website. There we go. Nothing exciting, but again, at least we know that it's all functioning. So there we go. That's how we can set up WordPress on dedicated WordPress hosting, and of course just the standard shared hosting. So there we go. I hope you found that interesting. If you have, please feel free to drop me a comment below. I do want to create some future videos on how to install plugins, things like themes, so we can make this website look a little bit more attractive, and also installing the security plugins and all the other stuff that goes with it. So stick around and stay tuned for that. But there we are. That's all done. So hopefully I might see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.